Well, with the so-called coronavirus and so-called lockdowns that are prevalent at this time in mid-March 2020, I have to spend a lot of time at home as just about everybody else does. Luckily, I'm able to do my day job remotely, but all my other time that I would usually spend with my second career of being a professional musician, all of that stuff is canceled, so nothing to do in the evenings, weekends are totally free. And so I've decided to occupy my spare time with a lot of odds and ends and little weird projects and clean up this and solve that problem. This is just one of those that I've decided to share here. Since I do a fair amount of engineering work from my home office, I have need for large formats. Have to print engineering drawings, things I just can't see adequately on the screen. I want to have them on actual paper. 11 by 17 is a common size that most engineering drawings will reduce down to and still be perfectly legible. So I have a Hewlett-Packard Laserjet 5200. It's the same exact model I have at my normal day job office, and I bought this one reconditioned on Amazon a few years ago. It's a workhorse, and the main problem I have with it is that it's big and it's in an awkward location, but there's no better place to move it. It isn't Wi-Fi, it has to be wired up, so it has to be within reasonable reach of the cables from my computer. And it ends up being right next to my workbench where I do shipping for eBay sales and other things that I do. And because it has a large top, I've just laid a piece of plywood over the top and used that as an auxiliary table. And for example, if I'm putting postage on a lot of things, I'll stack the ones that have postage on top of the printer, that kind of thing. And I decided that was way too kludgy. And also, if I have to move the printer for anything, it's in a tight spot. It's difficult to reach the handles to pick it up properly. And so I decided to provide some sort of a carrier slash cradle that would also have a lift-off tabletop, so I'm not actually having a loose piece of plywood sitting on top of the printer. So that's this project. I cut 4 panels of 3/4 inch Baltic birch. Regular plywood would have been fine for this, but I didn't have any 3/4 regular plywood, so I used up some of my precious Baltic birch for the project. 2 sides are just set here for test fit, setting on the base panel. There's also a top panel, and there it is sitting on top of the side panels, but in reality it's going to be 3/4 inch lower than that. To make the top stay in place and dock with the cradle part of it, I just notched it so it sets down into notches, corresponding notches in the side panels. I used wood glue and pin nails to secure the sides to the base, and I clamped it as well with the top panel notched into place to force the rest of it to stay in alignment so I wouldn't have issues later on getting the top on and off. Because of the large surface area of the sides and the fact that it's just a simple butt joint down to the base, even with the glue and pin nails, I wanted to reinforce those, so I drilled some 3/8 inch holes through the base and into the sides, and then wood glued some 3/8 inch wood dowel in there at several places. And after the glue was dried, I just used a pull saw to trim off the exposed dowel sticking out. I didn't mention it before, but I used a Forstner bit, a 1-inch Forstner bit, and made holes in the side panels, and then used my saber saw to cut between them to make ovaloid places where I could stick my hands in there and get a grip on it, and could actually pick up the printer and carry it that way using this cradle as a transport device for lifting or moving the printer. And then I also, on the one side of it where the power switch is and the cooling fan, I marked and cut a corresponding openings in the side panel. I gave the whole thing a perfunctory sanding and one coat of varnish, which these pictures show it, with my heater fans while the varnish cures. And here's the cradle in position on the little table, which I have paper storage under and toner cartridge storage. And then there's the printer sitting on the cradle, and this is how the tabletop docks into it. And there's another view of the same thing.